You know, a lot of people have always thought I'll just grab my gun and defend myself if there's ever a takeover or anything that's disagreeable. However, the reality is that nothing that's been done before will be done again. This time, I mean, look how quickly and simple it was to release a news release of a quote pandemic scary thing that's actually less lethal than the flu. And I'm not saying that flu isn't dangerous. Normal flu that's been happening every year for the last at least 50 years has been losing as much as 80,000 people per year to flu, people with compromised immune systems. And it's to those ends that I want you to think how quickly people are willing to just submit and obey and not be logical or reasonable and not do the right things for themselves. How many people also are in a situation where because they have massive loans and everything they have is under a loan, they're not in a position to do anything but obey anymore, and they're in the position to lose everything that they have when they can't make the payments on that small business, allowing everything to be consolidated into one massive business in the same way that you have news outlets owned by 6 corporations, probably owned by 1 or 2 families, ultimately controlled by one entity. The thing is, look how easily the world was put into a panic. Look how easily no more materials are being shipped in from China and other countries, and how everything in our economy, I mean almost everything is coming from another country, another economy, and that's all stopped now. We have the grand solar minimum coming in. We've had last year no plant 2019 and no plant 2020. Or hashtag no plant 2020. The grand solar minimum, a natural 400-year cycle overlapping perhaps a 2,000-year cycle that's going to cause changes to our weather, and it's happened before. In fact, the last time this happened, we had the plague that killed nearly 50% of the world's population, and that was led on by malnutrition that occurred before that. So my point is that, you know, whether it's real or imagined is irrelevant. The fact is that everybody's immediately willing to throw down all of their sovereignty, all of their patriotism, all of their gun-toting power and belief to submit to get a bowl of beans if they haven't prepared. And that's a very dangerous situation to be in, because if there's anything that the powers that be are not going to lose, that is control. And to take to the streets would be stupid. So stay calm and instead look at what actions you can take in your life to make your life better now with what you have, with what resources are still available. If we go through a digital currency changeover or reset, and there's a period of time where you can't get what you need and you can't pay your rent, what are you going to do? What are your options? There's a video also, you know, that I put out about living in a hexayurt. They use them out in the Playa Desert to live in extreme conditions for a short period of time. And it's basically, you know, 1.5 up to 4-inch thick foam board that's taped together, and it provides an insulating living container that could be air conditioned and heated, and it is infinitely more comfortable than a tent, and you can put it together for $200 or $300. So, you know, don't let yourself get into a situation where you can't provide the comforts and the needs that shelter offers us. And also look at building your life in a new way that is immune to these kind of disruptions, where your base food supply, your subsistence is met on an ongoing basis, not just stored up in a giant pantry or a bunker, but actually grown and produced real time. Learn about the knowledge to go out on the land and live off of what is available. I know most people wouldn't see anything behind me, but we have edible clovers and grasses, because almost all grasses can be juiced and consumed to meet 100% of your needs. It's almost identical to blood, but it has magnesium instead of iron in it. We have pine trees in the background, which you can peel off the outer bark, take the cadmium layer out, dry it out, pulverize it, and make bread. Over there, last year we had a huge fall of acorns, which has been a subsistence crop of a lot of native peoples. And actually, did you know oak trees are one of the most productive fruit or nut-bearing crops that there are in the world? Over here we have a lot of thistle starting to come up, and most of that thistle plant is edible. You can make you a coffee substitute out of the roots. We have a lot of dandelion coming up in the distance. That entire plant is definitely edible. And this is just not a complete list, but just to give you a clue as to what's possible. There are pictures of pot-bellied children in Africa starving to death because they are waiting for the white man to come hand them the rice to keep them alive as they know it, and yet in the photographs around them are 8 to 13 plants that they could be eating to live on. In fact, I'm going to put a link below in the description to a book, The Wild Wisdom of Weeds, and it's interesting because there's 13 plants that show up throughout the world, from Arctic Circle to Arctic Circle. Wherever mankind exists, these plants, like a dandelion, just show up. And these plants enable you to meet all of your food and medicinal needs. How convenient. Somehow we're actually supported by the universe. Think about that for a minute. What if there's a whole other way to subsist and to live? It's really only our attachment, the lead weight at the bottom of the pond that we're holding on to, refusing to let go, that would drown us. When all we have to do is let go, float up, and let nature take its course, when in actuality, outside of the artificial system, we have everything for life and for spirit. Everything that is good and wholesome and pure, we have these things freely, by the way. So I'll be honest, it's my own addiction to things, even like this camera. I like sharing information with people. I like meeting people. I like being able to get on the internet and look up something, or place an order and have it come to my door at a moment's notice. I like the ability to make money just by dropping something in the mail after receiving a payment. And all of that comes from another system, and yet we are not in control of that system. So instead of burning your energy worrying or trying to vote for the left hand or the right hand of the same head that's going to slap you either way, think about what you can actually do that will empower your life. What do you actually have power and control over in your life? Well, one of those things are the needs for your body's existence, in nature, in shelter, because the fact is most of us have moved into climates that are not really comfortable or even survivable outside of having good shelter, even if that good shelter is just a good wool blanket, living like the mountain man with a few tools. But you can move to an area of freedom outside of your typical massive cities, which is where everybody generally is anyway, and where the control will be the greatest, and where sickness would be the greatest. And you can build your shelter. You can have affordable land. You can build, for example, these AirCrete houses. A lot of people can build these. They can learn to build them quick and easy, and the price is so low that for the price of one typical tiny trailer house that you would go out and buy and finance, you can build 10 of these little AirCrete homes that are bigger and much more comfortable and not breaking down and rotting from the day you get them. They can be multi-generational dwellings. And that's before you add in the interest that will triple the cost of that house by the time you've paid it off over 20, 25 years. You could have built 10 of these homes, which means you could have moved somewhere, built the home, and then owner financed and sold that structure and left with an income to then go build 9 more and do the same thing 9 more times. And by the time you got through 3 or 4 of these, you now have a substantial payment coming into you from all these previous homes. Or you could just cash out for a cash value and leave, but you would be better off gaining actual value in something real as opposed to financing something that's breaking down or spending $35,000 to $69,000 on these ridiculously small tiny houses. You could have had something real, something comfortable, something that's going to last, and something you can turn around and sell and walk away with a gain from as you move, if you choose to move. And I know that most of us want the 3,000 square foot house and all the junk and all the stuff and all the toys and life as usual, and those things are actually holding us down from our potential. So ultimately, it's only us holding us down from our potential, just like it's only us that is obeying imaginary orders and imaginary threats. So instead of succumbing to that tactic that's always been used to make fear, to conquer and divide, then do what you can do in your life to empower yourself. And if it resonates with you, and if you would like the information, I have made the summation of this knowledge available through 3 courses. I have the Introduction to AirCrete course that teaches you how to build domes. I have the complete step-by-step building of a tiny 201 square foot AirCrete house that is a cylindrical rapid cast structure that can be built in as little as 14 days. But more typically a month for the average person, maybe even 2 months. But it puts in your hand all of the skills you need to build a completely functional structure. And then there's the Survive and Thrive Blueprint, which is giving you the food systems and the knowledge base that you need to meet your needs. I mean, you got to have water, you've got to have food, you've got to have shelter. And in today's day and age, you've got to have energy. You've got to have sanitation, the ability to deal with your own shite. The ability also to produce an ongoing supply of income, because a basic income is a need. So we also discuss how to generate incomes from the landscape, from your own personality and what you have to offer. What value can you bring to others that will bring back other things that you need in exchange? Then I have to throw in, beyond basic income, luxury. Because honestly, we all need something that feels really good, something that feels really nice for us. For me, that's laying and soaking in one of my little ponds on the property, or soaking in a hot tub. To me, that's just the piece that makes life so enjoyable. Sitting back with a cup of wine, some cheese and some crackers, looking up at the shooting stars at night, and just completely relaxing and pondering eternity and what's beyond the stars, and what it looks like to ascend human consciousness. So to those ends, we can all get beyond survival and move into thriving and move into honestly evolving or ascending our consciousness to a new way of living, a new way of being that completely fulfills us. Don't think for a moment that it's wrong to be selfish, because I can tell you that's bull. It's all based on selfishness anyway. So you need to meet your needs to be completely content and joyful in your heart, so that from that you can springboard out and share that joy with the world and bring some value to the rest of us. And if you're going to keep doing things the way you've always done it, the way everyone else is doing it, the way you've been told it's got to be done, I'll be happy when I can live the life and do what I want to when I retire, or someday I'll get around to my bucket list, it's not going to happen. I mean, really, and especially with what's going on in the light of the world right now at this moment, it's unlikely it's going to happen. Even in the world as it's been humming along, it never happens. So start taking those steps. You wouldn't be watching this if you just wanted life as usual. So I'm going to encourage you to be brave and step forward. And instead of being fearful, take action in the places in your life where you can actually do something and change something about it. Because it's not about electing the next ass clown, his right hand or his butt wiping left hand. It doesn't matter. They're both going to slap you. Instead, put your energy and your thought into what you can change in your life to make your life better. And maybe that's as simple as a little supplemental income. Maybe that's as simple as starting some small little grow bio-intensive garden plot that's self-fertile. Maybe that's as simple as starting to make videos or sharing those stories you've been putting off sharing. Maybe that's as simple as de-stressing yourself in a hot tub. Whatever that is, just pursue it and don't let anything and anybody stop you, because the truth is, whatever's going on out there, all that really matters is what's in your life and what you have control of, and those loved ones around you. And to that end, I'll be honest, some people aren't going to go with you, and that may be your family. But you shouldn't fail to do the right thing. Let me share one story with you that is actually encouraging. This one guy that I know, he was wanting to live a, quote, prepper lifestyle, and his wife, she wanted the Manhattan lifestyle, and there was always that conflict. And finally he started to follow his heart. He bought himself some little piece of land that wasn't terribly far away. It was only a couple hours from where he lived, and he was able to build himself a little cabin on this thing, just using wattle and daub, and then using wool insulation and another wattle and daub wall. He created a virtually free house, because he got the wool from a neighbor who was just shaving sheep, who had them just because they liked sheep, and wool happens to be a perfect insulation almost. So he built this little house, and through the course of time his wife wound up leaving him and taking what amounted to 2/3 of his income, and taking the children, and he was devastated, and he could no longer even survive on what he was making. And so he moved into that little house, and now he has all the food he needs, and he's completely content. And he said that he should have done it in the beginning, but he's absolutely joyful that he's got all his food, he's got his little house. Even though it's on a small lot, it still provides everything he needs. And it's because he took those initial steps, in spite of having the dream career and retirement, which, by the way, his wife got half of his retirement, and now the stock market has taken more than half of what he had remaining, and all that security was gone now, and now he's content and happy, surviving well, eating food he's grown in a house he's built on land that he owns, land that he's gone out and got a land patent for and has absolute right to keep, regardless of whether he could even pay taxes on it. And he's now learning the knowledge of how to separate being a public citizen from being a private human being, and legally defend himself and keep what he has. So most people are just going to be fearful. I hope that's not you. Start taking those steps to do and have a better future now. And so if this resonates with you in any way, I invite you to go and find the solution that you need for your life. Click the links below in the description and see if that would be of benefit to you. And if nothing else, you'll have a backup set of skills that will allow you to build a home and build a life and not be hopeless, but have an actionable plan to meet sustainability and survivability, from which you can springboard into absolute thriving. So stay positive, be hopeful, and above all, turn off the public media. Stop listening to the news forever. At least for 90 days, I challenge you. If you'll turn off the news for 90 days, I promise you, your life will never be the same. You have a great life.